we have to talk. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tex, and this is the weekend Wake Up. This is an update on a challenge that I started at the beginning of the year. The challenge specifically was to wake up before dawn 360 days out of the 365. If you want some more details on the challenge itself, I'll have a link up here and one in the description, and this will be in a playlist with that as well. But basically all you need to know is that for the challenge, I need to wake up before dawn 360 times. When I first started this challenge, I wanted to hit all 365 days. I didn't want to use any of the 5 days that I'd set aside, and I honestly didn't think that I would need to. But things didn't work out quite as I wanted them to. It is currently February 12th, and I have already used one of the 5 days. A week ago, I was visiting my sister in Pittsburgh. I was there to celebrate her birthday with her. She just turned 21, and we were going to go out and have a fun night. And I did have fun. In fact, I had a lot of fun. So much fun that I didn't record anymore while I was there. And so much fun that I slept past dawn the following day. Right now, it's about 8:45 as I'm recording this on February 12th. A week ago, I was still asleep. I was laying on the floor in her house, just passed out tired. I had failed. I had to use one of the 5 days that is set aside. I felt awful about it. But there was nothing that could be done at that point, besides just keeping on with the challenge. And in the beginning, I was kind of dissuaded from continuing the challenge. I am a bit of a perfectionist, so me failing that one day made me rethink continuing this challenge in general. I had failed a perfect run, but I realized I hadn't failed the challenge itself. The challenge was 360 days. Not a whole year, but 360 days. And I could still do that. It took me a little bit of time to realize that I could still complete the challenge, and that I should still complete the challenge, but I was able to force myself to get up before dawn for those first couple of days following my, let's just call it a lapse in judgment, or I suppose we should call it what it is, a failure. I realized partway into this past week that I was forcing myself. I wasn't doing this because I enjoyed it anymore. I had failed a perfect run, but I was letting that seep into the challenge itself and making me fail it at an even more fundamental level. One of the main goals or rules of this challenge was that I had to have fun with it. I was supposed to have fun with it. But instead, I was forcing myself, and I was having just these awful mornings. After a couple of days of that, I started to get sick of mornings like this.
Dawn keeps getting earlier and earlier every day. This is getting tougher and tougher.
And like this.
I realized this morning when I got up that the honeymoon period where I just wake up and I want to get going is over. Now I have to actually use willpower to get up.
So I decided to reevaluate. I had to sit down and reevaluate what I was actually doing with the challenge. After some thinking, I realized that this is about the long term. I set this challenge with long-term goals in mind. This is about trying to be as productive as possible and achieve as much as possible within this year and build on that for the rest of my life. So letting one day effectively ruin my mornings was something that I didn't want to do. I took more time to think and focus on what I actually wanted to get out of the challenge and the ways to make my days and the challenge in general better. So that way I would stop having days like the ones I showed you and instead would wake up in the morning like this.
February 11th. It is 6:45. Still dark out. Pretty much the same thing as usual. Today I am about to get ready and go to the gym.
I know it might not seem like a big difference from where I was in the earlier clips, but there's a massive internal difference between just being tired in the morning and wanting to get back into bed and quit the challenge. And I'm happy to say that over this past week, I have moved towards just being tired when I wake up, which is a lot easier to overcome than you telling yourself mentally, I can quit, I should quit, why am I even doing this? And I'm happy to say that I'm able to push those thoughts away, at least for now. I expect them to come back at some point. But for now, I'm back to focused on the challenge. In fact, I'm back to focused on trying to make myself the best version of me possible, which is what the spirit of this challenge is all about. And I did that by incorporating some new routines into my day to make my mornings better and to become kind of the person that I want to be. Instead of staying up late watching Netflix and only getting 6-7 hours of sleep, I started getting into bed and just reading. It took me about 5 weeks to read an 800-page book, and now in the past week I've read well over 300 pages of a different book, all while doing all of my other work. That's a pretty big uptick in the amount that I've been reading, and it's helped me get to bed earlier, so that way when I wake up in the morning, I actually got some rest, and I'm not just exhausted. There are still days, though, where I'm not going to get any rest, such as today. I got back from work at about 3 in the morning because I had to give a friend a ride, and I had to be up by 6:40. I barely beat dawn this morning, but I forced myself to get up because now I'm reminding myself every morning of what this challenge is actually meant to be, and it's given me a little bit more passion to keep pursuing it. Long story short, I failed a perfect run, and instead of just moving on like I should have, I let it seep into everything else, and I was starting to fail one of the other parts of the challenge, which was enjoying it and getting the most out of it. So I took some time to reevaluate, and now I'm back on track. I am enjoying this again. I like the fact that I still kind of have a little bit deeper of a morning voice because I haven't done any talking, and I'm recording on a weekend before most people are even awake. I'm enjoying it again. I don't know how long it'll last. I hope it lasts the entire duration of the challenge, but I know that that's not realistic. Just like me getting a perfect year my first time trying this was unrealistic. But even if I can't get a perfect year, I can still finish the challenge, and I can do it in the spirit of the challenge. In terms of some of the specifics that I used to help get me back on track, the first and major one was fixing my nighttime schedule. Like I mentioned, I stopped watching YouTube and Netflix. By about 8:30 every night, I was in bed reading, and I would often find myself reading for just 2 hours straight, looking at the clock. Oh, I need to get to bed right now if I want to get 8 hours of sleep. Stuff like that. The next one was actually taking more time to meditate during the day. In the past, I've let myself get away with barely 5-10 minute sessions, Now I make sure that I schedule it at a point in the day where I can kind of just drift away as long as I need to. I had 2 instances this past week where I broke 25 minutes. Just without timer or anything, I just sat there breathing with my eyes closed, and when I opened them again, 25 minutes had passed. And that really helped with my mental clarity throughout the day and my drive to finish the day strong, because now I was a bit better rested. The last couple of things that I did were just making sure that my days were actually full and that I was focused on things that I wanted to do. I rethought about all the long-term goals that I had and how I can get them done or started, at least in the short term. And I made longer to-do lists. I made better to-do lists with more precise goals. One of the things that I want to do at some point this year is travel outside the country. And in order to do that, I need to get a passport. So instead of pushing that off, I put together all the paperwork to get a passport already. And I have it written down that I need to have applied for that passport by the end of this month. That way I'll have it by the time that summer rolls around. And just doing simple stuff like that has really helped me refocus on what this challenge is meant to be, and that's just getting as much out of life as possible. One last thing that really helped me is being up early and actually looking at what's going on around me. I'm still not getting up that early when you compare it to what some people do every day. And I've started to realize that because I'll go downstairs to jump rope and I'll be looking out the window and I'll see dozens of cars pass by in the half hour that I'm down there. And I'm getting down there before 7 o'clock. But there are plenty of people who are up and working and doing stuff before 7 o'clock. So seeing people doing stuff like that makes me realize what I'm doing isn't that special. And if they can do it, I can do it. And also, it kind of builds a little fire in me that I need to start working harder. I need to eventually be getting up sooner and sooner, so that way I truly am making the most out of life and I am doing more than anybody around me. I know that sounds kind of like arrogant and like I'm trying to do too much, but I'm gonna be honest, that's the goal. And seeing people doing what I'm doing makes me feel like I can do it, but also makes me feel like I should be pushing more. I suppose now I should mention some of what I've actually accomplished over the past 2 weeks, because again, this is meant to be an update video on the challenge, and to this point I've just been talking about my failure within the challenge and how I overcame it. So here are some of the things that I've done over the past 2 weeks with my extra time. One of the bigger things that I've done over the past couple of weeks is making more content on YouTube. Over the past few weeks, I started making some more shorts, and I even started a mini series on how to do magic. It's called Magic 101, and I started making both of those because I thought it was important for me to actually start making series and content that I'm going to continue for a while, so that way I can force myself to stick to a schedule instead of just making videos of what comes to mind. The next big thing that I've done is reading. I mentioned that before. I've covered about 300 pages of a book in the past about week. That's a lot for me. I haven't done that much reading since I was a kid, and I'm happy to say that I'm doing it now. Other stuff that I've done, I started going back to the gym. That's the first time I've been back to the gym since I had COVID back in December. I've also been doing more body weight workouts around the house and everything, and I even started writing a bit more. I mentioned this in one of the previous videos, but I decided to actually write short stories this year. I have plenty of projects that I started writing but just never finished because the goal was too ambitious. I was trying to sit down and write an entire book, but now I'm writing short stories, and in the past 2 weeks I completed about a 5-page short story. I say completed, but I have a lot that I'm going to add to it and turn it more into 10-15 page story that if I ever do write a book could well be one of the opening chapters of it. But I realized this year that I should be focused on actually manageable goals instead of just these grandiose ideas that I want to accomplish. I still have some absurd goals that aren't like small and manageable, such as waking up before dawn every day for the year, but by and large, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing this year is working as a stepping stone to what I want to accomplish in the future. In the future, I plan on making some videos about how to set goals, some of my tips for being productive, everything like that, so that way those of you that are curious can maybe learn something from me and learn what I'm actually doing to accomplish what I accomplished this year. So keep an eye out for all of that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel and it means a lot to me. You guys and your support is part of what keeps me going on challenges like these and trying to make the most out of this. Let me know down in the comments what types of videos you'd like to see next, what you thought of this video, and just general thoughts on the channel and what I'm doing here. Also, let me know how often you want to see updates on this. Currently, I'm doing it bi-weekly, but I'm open to either making it weekly or just pushing it back to monthly. So, your input would be greatly appreciated. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.